We're joined now by prison consultant Sam Mangel, who represents Peter Navarro. And Sam, as of this weekend, I understand you're also representing Steve Bannon.
Hi, Jessica. I really can't comment on my relationship with Mr. Bannon at this point. I know he's going through his appeal process, so I think it'd be best if we let that play out and see what happens. So of course, as things develop, we'll see what happens and go from there.
All right, so let's talk a little more generally. Thanks again for coming on. We're glad to have you. Just first off, we are seeing people like Peter Navarro, like Steve Bannon, going to prison, and a lot of people are pretty defiant. They have been defiant about going to prison. Steve Bannon, for example, said he's going to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court. But at what point have you found in your line of work does kind of the reality set in and they start to really prepare, or does it take getting there to really let the reality set in?
Most people that I work with, it usually takes until their day they're sentenced for it to really kick in. Up until the time you're sentenced, a lot of it is theoretical and conceptual. We're not sure what's going to happen at sentencing. And I would say 99% of the people I work with are very optimistic and sometimes like to bury their head in the sand and think that when they go into sentencing, they're going to be the unicorn. They're going to be the person that the judge has unlimited mercy on and decides to sentence them to a non-custodial home confinement type sentence. In reality, that just doesn't happen. So most of the time, it really sinks in the day that the judge reads a number. And that's why when I help people, I would say probably 65 to 70% of my practice is post-sentencing. What happens from the time the judge reads that number?
And so what does happen? How do you prepare people like this for high profile people to go into prison? And how is that different for them than it may be for somebody else?
I tell everyone, high profile or not, be a little fish in a big pond. And when you're high profile, naturally you're going into a situation, regardless of the length of your sentence, that will make you stand out. People are going to want to hear your stories. Staff are going to be interested in you. Staff are going to more closely monitor your phone and emails, which they're permitted to do. Staff will really not only tend to look out for you more, but be more curious to know who you're talking to and what you're discussing. Inmates, on the other hand, tend to put high-profile clients, whether you're a crypto person or a politician, more on a pedestal. They're curious to hear and learn from them. Don't forget, Jessica, a lot of people, even in minimum security camps where my clients are going to, might have been in the system for 5, 10, 20 years and finally make it down to a camp. They're not all white-collar offenders. So they're thirsty for knowledge. They want to hear what it's like to live in the White House or be involved in politics or have a private plane. Basically, they try to live vicariously through that individual. So they're safe. Ultimately, people that go into minimum security camps are safe. Their biggest problem is boredom and really staying out of the fray.
And what is typically their biggest concern for somebody like a Steve Bannon or Peter Navarro? What are they worried about?
Overwhelmingly, remember when somebody goes to prison, you're like every other inmate. You are strictly a number. So their initial concern is, well, what am I going to do and what am I going to be safe? And once they realize they're going to be safe, that it's not an environment where there's cells and camps, they're large dormitories, or in the example of a military base where the camp might be, their individual rooms. So safety, once that fear is removed, it's, well, how do I access my loved ones? How do I access, in some people's case, the media? And when you have to explain to them, look, you get 510 minutes a month of phone time. Can't buy more minutes. You get 15 minutes per call. If you don't use those minutes judiciously, there's nothing worse than running out of phone time after 2 weeks. You can't buy more. You can't use someone else's phone time. And the temptation maybe to use a cell phone when in prison might exist. And I warn all of my clients, stay away from that, because everyone eventually gets caught with contraband. And all that does is it could jeopardize where they are, they might get moved to a higher level institution, and how long they're there. So lack of communication is probably the biggest frustration, especially for high profile type A clients.
All right, Sam Mangel, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jessica.